Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll visit the Lake Trails Base Camp in northern Minnesota's Lake of the Woods. But joining me first is the manager of the Microsoft TechSpark Initiative, Taya Spellhaug. And I told you I'd stumble over it. Taya, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
As we get started, tell the folks a little bit about yourself and your background.
Of course. So I am a North Dakota farm girl. Grew up just south of here in Kindred, North Dakota. And I spent time in 4-H and FFA all the way through high school, and then went to NDSU. After college, spent time in higher ed, for the most part at NDSCS, North Dakota State College of Science, down in Wahpeton, and then also here in Fargo. And then spent a couple years at the United Way of Cass and Clay County, which was amazing. And then about 2.5 years ago is when I came over and took over as the manager of Microsoft's TechSpark program.
Well, with that said, what is the Microsoft TechSpark Initiative?
Sure. So really, in its essence, it's a philanthropic program within our Microsoft Philanthropies that really looks at economic development for rural parts of America. And so it started about 3 years ago. Our president, Brad Smith, saw a need with more intense help in rural parts of America, saw that there needs to be more rural broadband initiatives, there needs to be more computer science education with kids, and workforce development. And they were all already kind of doing these things, and so what they did is they just packaged it together, called it TechSpark, and then rolled it out into 6 different locations right away. We've expanded a little bit, but and then chose North Dakota as one of the locations.
Yeah, well, you say, so yeah, you said Brad Smith, and I mean, how did it get started? Was it funding through something, or did Microsoft pick it?
Yeah, so Brad Smith, within our president, he oversees Microsoft Philanthropies, and so it is funded within our Microsoft Philanthropies programming at Microsoft.
Okay.
And so really, when he looked at it, he said, we've got 5 initiatives: computer science education, workforce development, try to get the more people educated around computer science, and in order to fill those skills gaps, there's a lot of need for people to have those skills in every business, and so we're helping to do that. We also look at, like I said, the rural broadband. North Dakota's got a lot of real good rural broadband, but there's still a need, and so how are we going to help support those people, especially farmers, here with rural broadband? Then we look at digital transformation. So that's a big one on how are we helping move the needle for businesses in rural North Dakota on transforming their businesses with our digital technologies. So we've had some really great and fun success with NDSU and some startups. And then finally, just since we're in philanthropies, we look at nonprofits that are in our region. And so we've been able to help support quite a few nonprofits on the great work that they're doing here.
So why this region? I mean, is this happening in other areas where Microsoft's involved, or so why Fargo and North Dakota?
Right. Each region's very unique, and Microsoft North Dakota is the only one with the actual Microsoft locations. 3 others in Southern Virginia, Wyoming, and then Eastern Washington have data centers, but we're the only one with an actual Microsoft site. But that wasn't the only reason why we were chosen. Really, the climate and what we're doing here in North Dakota, the fact that we're incredibly rural, but we're also really progressive on what we're trying to do with computer science and technology. Thanks to Doug, our governor, Doug Burgum, and our CIO. And so it was just a really good opportunity to land that here in North Dakota.
Yeah. We're going to talk about something here, and I don't know which way to ask this. We'll start off, I'm going to jump down. You've been involved in agriculture.
Yeah.
And so what is the Grand Farm?
Sure. So the Grand Farm, it's an initiative actually through Emerging Prairie here in town. And so we got involved with it. Each TechSpark region is slated to have a signature project. And so it's really looking at who are the great partners in our region and who are, what are some of our industries in our region that we can really help support. And so it was a really natural fit to look at Emerging Prairie being a fantastic partner, and then agriculture. And they have this project called Grand Farm, which really looks at, it's a physical location. It's actually 6 miles south of the Microsoft campus. And, but they have more than that. And so the physical location is really looking at autonomous farming or digitizing ag. And so, how do we help support the legacies of farmers and not try to take away their jobs, but really help support, their production, their ag production, how to help, like I said, support their legacy down the road. But besides the physical location, there's other aspects of the Grand Farm that they look at, an accelerator for startups. That's one piece. Another piece is Merging Digital Academy, which is helping to create programmers in our region, which is definitely a need. We need to train more people on how to become a programmer. So this academy is doing that. And then they look at policy. Just like what we're doing up in Grand Sky and Grand Forks, we're able to look at some policy changes that could happen, around digitizing ag. And then the final piece is just their amazing ecosystem that they already have. And so when we looked at those 5 pieces and then we looked at the 5 pieces of TechSpark, they really worked well together. And so it was just a natural fit to go in and say, all right, let's support this. Let's have a great time with this. Let's also, with Microsoft's name supporting this, how are we getting other partners involved? And that's been really fun to see. We just launched this in October, and we've already had quite a few other partners coming on board. And it's been incredible to see that intensity and that hunger for digitizing ag.
Well, I think you already answered the next question about the blog post from there from the announcement from October. So that's what that was all about.
That's what it's all about. Yeah, yeah. It was a $1.5 million investment into the Grand Farm made by Microsoft.
Wow, that's tremendous. Yeah. So how and why is it so important to connect with rural North Dakota? You hit on it some, but
yeah, it's a place that hasn't been touched as much. It's a place that we need to continue what we're doing with rural America in order to help everybody succeed and move forward. And so we don't want to see rural America go away. We don't want to see the businesses in rural America go the way of Kodak. And so those are the reasons why we're helping support. And if we can get everybody on the internet, everybody broadband access, it's going to help everybody in the United States.
Yeah. Well, that's usually one of the big issues.
Yeah.
If you talked about how many regions does Microsoft have in this initiative, and what and where are they?
Sure. So we originally started with 6, as I mentioned, and then we kind of in the last 2.5 years we've morphed a little bit. We've taken on some bigger locations, and so I'd mentioned Virginia, Wyoming, Eastern Washington, but we also started with Wisconsin as well, and then El Paso, Texas, which is a little bit bigger. And then the next year, we actually went into Juarez, Mexico, so right across the border. They have some interesting issues that are also similar to the issues that are facing rural America, and so it was a really good fit for them as well. But they also have large military and veterans there, so that was a great opportunity to do some great work there. And then recently, we added Miami and also Detroit. So all in all, we have 9 different locations across the United States looking at rural, but then underserved communities that are underserved by technology companies.
Do you travel to these regions, or does another manager at all the other regions?
Yeah, great question, because really what we wanted to do at Microsoft is make sure that we have local people on the ground. And so I just manage North Dakota. I'm from here. I've worked, like I said, in education, nonprofits. So they wanted somebody who understood the region, had connections within the region, and then they chose a manager for each of those 9 locations.
Okay. Yeah. How are y'all closing the gap, or how do we close the gap in computer science education in rural North Dakota?
Yeah. So the great thing about that is we're trying to do that already in North Dakota. Kirsten Baszler, our superintendent of public instruction, the rest of DPI, we're really focusing in on computer science education, and so we helped support CTE and DPI last year with the legislative session around computer science, and we launched the first ever computer and cybersecurity standards K-12 in the nation, which was really cool. And so we helped a little bit with that, but we also really wanted to create some buzz around computer science. I think oftentimes people don't understand the need for it. So we've done some really interesting things. We have an event called Hour of Code. And so coding is that programming that you do. And so we do it with kids. And when I took on this position, they said, all right, you need to go out and do an Hour of Code event. And I was looking on the website, and I saw that Kindred, my hometown, had done it. So I called up some of the people that I knew there, and I said, hey, would you guys want to do an event? And the elementary school principal got really involved with it, and she goes, let's do the whole entire elementary. And it was fabulous. We had 450 kids on the gym floor coding at the same time. It was mass chaos, but we called it organized chaos. My 4 nieces and nephews were there. It was fabulous. And we had 6th graders or 2nd graders helping 6th graders. It was just a really fabulous time. And Doug Burgum, our governor, showed up. I was treated like a rock star. They were all excited. And so I think that momentum just really sparked the fact that this is needed. And so a few people had asked, well, we did a whole school. Can you do the whole state next year? And we kind of laughed about it, and then we decided to do it. So actually last year we did a statewide, first ever in the nation, statewide Hour of Code for North Dakota, partnering again with DPI, CTE, Edutech, which is through ITD in North Dakota. And we were in 100 school districts across North Dakota, and we had over 6,000 kids coding at the same time, same day. So, a lot of people were talking about that. That kind of got the buzz on that part. So, but we have another group, another program through Microsoft called TEALS that also helps to drive that computer science education a little bit forward.
Yeah. Is there an issue with finding people to teach things like this in rural North Dakota?
Yeah, there is, for sure. I believe the stat was that there was only 5 actual computer science teachers in the state of North Dakota. And 2 of them were in administration. And so you need to have that expertise. And so what we've been doing is been working with Edutech on training teachers on how to become computer science teachers, but also be able to incorporate it into classrooms. We have an amazing teacher out in Richland, Mrs. Carlson, that she incorporates it into her history class, computer science. And it's really cool to see these different types of programs happening across the state. But another program that we have is like I said, called TEALS.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Sure, yeah, so it's Teacher Education and Literacy in Schools. So it's an acronym. We love acronyms at Microsoft. And really what it is, it's pairing an actual computer science professional, so engineer, with an in-house teacher. So the in-house teacher raises their hand and says, I would like to be that teacher to help teach computer science. And then we either remote in or actually have a person come in physically to that class to teach the curriculum that we have built for computer science education. And it's a really great opportunity for the kids to interact with somebody in the industry, and then also have that teacher learn how to teach computer science along the way. And so usually after 3 years, that in-house teacher knows the information well enough to continue to teach it. So it's a sustainable model. So we don't always have to have those professional people, those volunteers, because they're 100% volunteer, to be in there every single time. They're able to almost kind of phase out of those schools and then teach in other schools. So it's an amazing program. We're in all over the United States, many all over the United States, but we have 15 different schools around North Dakota that have TEALS within them. So it's been pretty cool.
So it sounds like that program's been going pretty good so far, but Are there things you can do to improve it?
Always. Always. I think what's great about it is more we talk about it, I think there's a lot of people that say, hey, how do we get involved? How do we help what you're doing? And so those partnerships really start blossoming. And as we're moving forward, Microsoft kind of pivots a little bit and takes another look at, we're doing great things here, now maybe we can focus a little bit more. Workforce development is a big one. And so we've done a lot with computer science education. We're still focusing on that. Now we're looking at how are we helping to support the workforce. With AI and automation, there's a lot of things that are changing in the workforce. We talk about every business being a technology business, and that there are people that need to understand computer science. And so how are we helping somebody that may have lost their job due to automation, but now can get a better job once they get some skills in learning how to do that. And so we have an initiative to try to get as many people as we can to really get upskilled and reskilled with those skills in computer science.
Yeah. Well, I may be wrong here, but it seems like your background's not really in technology, but you seem well versed in it. And so how do you go about going out and explaining this to businesses and individuals?
Right. So kind of fake it till you make it. No, it's more a lot of learning. My background is actually in mental health counseling, and so this was something new to me, but I've learned a lot. We had a lot of amazing people back in Microsoft in Redmond who've done some really great education. And then it's a lot of going out and meeting with people and understanding the needs, and then bringing back those needs to Redmond and having the really incredibly smart people who understand technology help with that. So it's a really good just kind of marriage of different personalities and partnerships.
You've mentioned Governor Burgum 2 or 3 times here in our conversation, but how much has he been involved, and is the state involved at all?
Yeah, so we are really, it's a blessing to have Doug Burgum as our governor and take an initiative on computer science education. And he's definitely been a supporter of what we're doing with his connection with Microsoft. It's always good, but he's also looking at it. I mean, this is a rural economic development program. He's all about the Main Street Initiative and helping support economic development in rural America. So it aligns really well with his initiatives as well. And so it's been great to, when we were pitching, because we had to pitch the $1.5 million Grand Farm initiative, and he spent time with us to look over and said, he's used to working with Microsoft, and so he took some time with us to look over our pitch and give us some critiquing, and it was great. So it was really fun to have a governor that's so involved in what we're doing here in our state.
Yeah. How many people are employed on the Fargo campus of Microsoft?
Yeah. It's a great question. I get that often, because when I say I'm from North Dakota and we have a site, people don't often think that we have a big site, but it is. We have probably around 1,600 people that work either for or with Microsoft at the campus in South Fargo. And so we have about, I would say, 1,100 full-time employees and about 500 contractors that work for Microsoft. So in the past, we were the second largest Microsoft campus, but we're right around 4 or 5. So it ebbs and flows. Well,
let's go back to your initiative real quick. How is it funded, and where do you see it going in the future?
Sure. Really, it started off as a 5-year initiative. So how are we going to drive as much change and impact into rural America in these 5 years? And we're kind of at the halfway point, the 2.5 years. And so it doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to move on. It could definitely evolve as the world is changing, and Microsoft's very good at pivoting and meeting the needs of different areas and different customers. So, I think it really could. Right now, we're going to be focusing a lot on the Grand Farm and that signature project. We're going to be working a lot with trying to find other partners, getting the word out and seeing who else we can bring to North Dakota. We've had conversations with people from Morocco and companies from Morocco, and so that's really fun to see that they're saying, "Hey, you've got this Microsoft in town. This is actually something that's going to happen." So it's been pretty cool.
Well, we're out of time. So if people want more information, where can they go? Who can they contact?
Yeah, so they can definitely look me up on LinkedIn, Taya Spellhaug, or they can go to Microsoft.com/TechSpark.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Stay tuned for more. Lake Trails Base Camp has been hosting wilderness canoeing and camping adventures for teens since 1952. Located on beautiful Oak Island in Lake of the Woods, the heart of this experience lies within building friendships that last a lifetime.
We are at Lake Trails Base Camp, located on the very southern tip of Oak Island. Technically, we're called Oak Point. My name is Sue Lem, and I'm the camp director, have been for the past 10 years now.
Everybody looking good? Yeah!
Lake Trails began in 1952. It was a vision of Father Bill Merkins. He wanted to start a camp for teenagers where they could go and explore the wilderness and just really have fun. And of course, because of his love of boats, that was always part of the vision as well. They got permission from the Diocese of Crookston to start a camp. And so Father Bill and Father Jerry rented a boat and they started going around to all the little islands, just exploring. But they decided that this was a pretty good spot. And they started doing really very similar to what we're doing today. They went out on canoe trips and just started exploring the area. In the very beginning, it was a Catholic boys' camp. After a couple years, they started thinking about why should the boys have all the fun? So a girls' camp was started. And in the 70s, the decision was made to just go co-ed. The current mission of Lake Trails, it's built off of Father Bill's vision of what he called the Lake Trails idea. We want kids to learn really to appreciate themselves, to appreciate nature, to become a positive member of their community. I can remember Father Bill many times using the phrase unconditional acceptance. And that was just drilled into us through his sermons and just in his everyday life. Forgive readily and be part of the community that we're building. Have a wilderness adventure. That was all part of the Lake Trails idea.
Watch over us as our 5 days on trail, help us bond, create memories, and hopefully bring us back a little bit more in touch with nature.
It's a pretty intense 9 days, but the real magic, the real heart of it all happens when they're out on trail. And so the first day is mostly getting here. Get them out to the island and they check in. You check in your phone and you check in your electronics. We don't want them to be staring at a screen. We want them to interact with one another, and that's how real friendships are formed, really, is just through human face-to-face contact. And they have a big supper that night, big campfire that kind of sets the stage for the week. There's a lot of crazy skits, and just the guides are amazing. They're funny and imaginative and creative, and they really start out on a fun note. The second day is kind of a crash course in everything we want them to learn on their canoe trip. So we teach them everything from how to set up a tent to how to paddle to how to poop in the woods. That's some kids have to know. They spend the rest of that day just packing their gear, deciding what their menu is going to be for the week. And at some point during the day, the group will go paddling and really get that experience of being on the water and pushing the water around with your paddle. The real heart of the program starts on day 3. That's when I start to see kind of some nervousness sometimes, some excitement, a little apprehension once in a while, especially for kids that have never been here before. They're not necessarily sure what they've gotten themselves into, which I think is great. You know, a little uncertainty is good for a person sometimes. And again, I think this is a little unusual that Lake Trails allows campers to choose their own canoe trips. That was one of the things early on that Father Bill wanted to have happen. So we still today try to have the kids very involved with the planning of the canoe trip. I know a lot of camps, it goes by age or by your grade in school, and we don't really care about that. From the moment they leave the beach, we just call it trail magic or the Lake Trails magic, and it's just amazing what happens when they're out on trail. My very favorite part is watching them leave and then fast forward 5 days and watching them return. And the transformation is amazing.
Be good to each other, work as a team. Woohoo!
And the real magic is that whole time this lovely community is forming. You know, they learn about each other and they make new friends. They learn about kids who come from different circumstances than their own. Every trip has at least 2 guides, and they're traveling from island to island. They learn how to start fires. They learn how to do a little cooking over the campfire. They learn how to set up tents. They learn that they're way more capable than they probably gave themselves credit for. Then they come back from trail and oh my gosh, the celebration is just crazy. And the stories begin immediately when they get out of the canoes. There will be a lot of tears at the end of the summer when we all go our separate ways because you just get so close. This is the best kept secret in Minnesota. People just don't know about us. And that has always been a challenge, is to let people know, because there's truly life-changing things that are happening here for the better, and people don't know that we even exist.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse this week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.